Fun School is in session on Amigos, episode 316. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Fun School. Aaron, how fun was school for you?
It was more fun than it is now, Boat. I can tell you that. I hated school, actually. From the time I got to 6th grade until about my 11th grade, I despised school. I'm not a morning person, to be honest with you. I know I've developed into, they beat me down. Society beat me down until I had to be one. But even as a kid, I just never liked to get up early. And so I've always wondered if getting up early actually diminishes test scores and beats these kids down. It just never seemed right. I always think they should have school start about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get the kids time to get some sleep. But I wasn't the biggest fan, Bo, and I carried that hatred of school into college, which I also hated. So I'm not a big fan. What about you? You have to work at a school, so you've got to love it.
Well, you know, the only place that I enjoyed at school was the band room. And so I said to myself, what can I do to where I can get a job where I just hang out in the band room all day? I'll tell you this, Aaron, there's a limited number of jobs available.
Tuba polisher, spit valve cleanup crew, band director. That's all you got.
But even now, when I have to leave the friendly confines of the band room and go down one of the main halls where all the real classes are, it's no good. I get that same feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'm still not sure where some of the class. I've been at the school 9 years. There's still teachers I don't know.
Did the other teachers from more popular subjects smack you around and badmouth you?
There is a little bit of bullying that goes on. Yeah, I get shoved in a locker. You know how it goes when you're a band guy. That tradition carries on throughout the ranks of the professionals as well. So I was glad that there were no hallways in Fun School on the Amiga.
Let me ask you a question, Boat. Since you have taught abroad or two, but you've also taught from all over the world.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, how is band perceived, or band members perceived in other countries? Are they treated with more respect and the dignity they deserve for their incredible talent? Do they even have band programs for that matter?
Band doesn't exist in many parts of the world. It definitely doesn't exist as a class during the day. Band is more akin to an extracurricular activity, maybe like a football team in other countries. And so we're very lucky. And by we, I mean me, because I'd be out of work. I'm very lucky that we have band as a subject in this country. You know, I've got a foreign exchange student here, and she in high school, they have no electives at all. There's no art class. There's no, she's taking yearbook right now. There's definitely no yearbook. There's no music. It's basically just like all of your, core subjects plus whatever you think you want to be when you grow up. And so she's taking like geopolitics and socioeconomic blah, blah, blah. French school is a lot different than American school, it turns out. Who knew?
Yeah, let me ask you. Boy, this is an awful serious conversation for us, but I am intrigued by this conversation, so I got to ask. The fact that band, yearbook, all this other goofy stuff is actually hard-baked into our curriculum, is that, and while these other schools may cram more actual factual knowledge into your head and use this stuff as an after-school activity, are we on the wrong path here, or are we doing the right thing, Bo? What do you think?
I think we're doing the right thing. I think a broad education where you're exposed to many different types of subjects and interests is by and large a good thing. However, that said, you've been to high school. You and I went to the same high school. You know some of these classes. You take these classes because you know you're not going to have to do anything, and that's where we stumble and fall. Because you can teach a course in anything and have it be edifying, but a lot of times you get courses where teachers just, I teach art appreciation, and so it's like here's a couple movies we can watch during this class or something like that.
Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but when I was in middle school, they had electives that were unbelievable by today's standards. Like, for example, I kid you not when I say I had an elective class in Dungeons and Dragons when I was in middle school, or a chess team, stuff like that would happen during school. Board games was a class. Just go in there and get the board games out and play games the whole time. And those are utterly pointless. Another one of my favorites, study hall, where you just basically sit there and do nothing.
Exactly.
I'm guessing they don't have that
this is I was gonna say this is where I'd probably make some changes if I was the man in charge. But when it comes to artistic subjects, when it comes to things like even like home ec, like home ec is great if you teach it well, because learning how to cook, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
it's funny that we talk so much about school on the week that I withdrew my kid from school.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
kind of wacky because we're sort of under the gun here in West Virginia with the unpleasantness. And the schools have got a little dicey, and my kid gets his vaccine in a couple weeks, so we thought, heck, let's just pull him out for about a month. And I will say, we talked to the school people, and they're totally cool with putting it back in when he's done stuff. So they've made some changes to make it a little more palatable, know. But what do you think about? Have you ever considered if homeschooling versus actual schooling would be a better way to go? What you got a thought on that? I was going to ask you about that anyway.
Absolutely, it 100% depends on who's teaching your kid.
So you don't think I should be a homeschool teacher, for example?
You would be an excellent homeschool teacher. You are well versed in the ways of the world.
He would be great at D&D by the time he graduated. I can tell you that right now, but
it's just like every education comes down to the quality of the teacher. That's at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about.
Thank God I'm not teaching him. He'd be boned,
All right, Aaron, let's move on, shall we, to this week's Amiga news.
Yep.
Amiga news.
So, Aaron, we've got some videos this week. A couple big names in the Amiga scene have released new content. We're going to start things off with our buddy Ravi from the Retro Hour. What's he got this week, Aaron?
Well, this is a wacky one, Bode. I'll be honest with you, but I haven't seen Ravi put out a video for a while. Ravi went over, and I believe he got this from Poland. I think he says in the video.
That's where all the best stuff comes from, man.
Listen, we know all about crazy Polish power supply gimmicks.
Yeah, we do.
But Ravi looked at our shoebox and was like, hold my beer. When he bought a power supply to power 2 Amigas simultaneously, Bode.
Wow.
Have you seen this thing?
Yeah, so this is crazy.
It's a power supply, just a block, and it's got 2 ports on it, and then you are supplied the cables of your choice to stick into the power supply that goes to your Amigas. So, for example, you could power 2 Amiga 500s, an Amiga 500, a CD32, Amiga 600, Amiga 500, whatever you want. They've got all kinds of crazy different leads. And then on the other side, it's got a lead to determine, depending on what country you're from, how you're going to plug this thing to the wall.
Sure. Sounds great.
Ravi put this thing over, and Ravi did mention something in this that I hadn't thought about. Because I've got a replacement power supply myself for the Amiga. It does one. But Ravi had been taking his DJ equipment on the road, which is comprised of some Amigas, and he'd go into the club with this stuff, and they'd look at these ancient computers and that big beat-down power supply and be like, is this a fire hazard?
Yeah,
and
right.
he'd be like, I don't know, And so he was put off to go do this thing.
Well, this is a perfect solution. Obviously, this is not for everybody. Not everybody needs to plug in 2 Amigas simultaneously all the time. But if you run any kind of a retro museum, we talk about Neil's Cave that's coming up.
Yeah.
This seems like it would be a perfect solution for something like that.
I will say we got Chris Edwards in here who says he has one of these, and the insides of this are mean wells. That's good. He says it's a good power supply, and Ravi was really into it as well. I will say I did the math on this thing. It comes out to about a 100 American dollar-y dues, and I'm guessing and that's not counting shipping. So it's not cheap, brother.
Right.
But you are getting 2 power supplies for the price of one, for all intents and purposes. So the only time I've seen something like this before is in the retro gaming scene. They've got a power supply. If you've got a Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, like I do. And if you try to hook up like a 32X and all that stuff, you end up having like 1,000 power supplies because the 32X takes a power supply, the Genesis takes a power supply, and the CD edition takes a power supply. So you've got 3 huge, and the Genesis power supplies are like as big as your head,
massive.
And they've got a gimmick that will power all 3 if you need that. So
that's essential.
Yeah. So anyway, this looks like it'd be kind of neat. If you want to check it out, just go to Ravi Abbott's channel and check it out. The guy that sells this stuff's on eBay, Boat. So it's called the Amiga Duo. The Amiga Duo, Boat. So there you go.
Cool. Now, we move on to our buddy Doug the 10-minute Amiga Retrocast. He's talking about something called the Amiga 3000 motherboard. What is this thing, Aaron?
I enjoyed this, and I'll tell you why. I love, me and Doug had a shared experience. We both bought these Amigas a couple years ago. Now, if you'll recall, Boat, the Amiga is quite a neat device. Mine came over with several problems.
It arrived broken, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was.
Okay.
See, that's not the diplomatic way of saying it. Yeah, it was jacked up, Boat. And so I had to reflow a chip. I had to do a dance. And you get into and one of the problems I had is because Edu was more than happy to let me send that thing back, but you're talking shipping to Spain,
yeah,
and so that ain't cheap, brother.
No.
So Doug had a very similar experience. So flash forward to the Amiga here. The Amiga is a replacement motherboard for an Amiga 3000. That you repopulate yourself. For all intents and purposes, because of course we know that the Amiga has the custom chips that you can't buy. All this jive, all right? So Doug sent an Amiga 3000 board over and sent over the money, and he had the guy populate it for him. Now you can ponder this for a minute. If you look at this motherboard, populating this thing yourself or having anyone do it, that ain't no cakewalk. That is a ton of intricate solder work. This boy right here wouldn't do it. I can tell you that. There's not enough wad. And this thing wasn't cheap. I think Doug said he was into it to something like 600 pounds or something. It was expensive.
I'm totally not surprised. I mean, the labor alone in putting something like that together has got to be astronomical.
Now, the advantages of this are the video has changed a little bit. And they've changed. There's extra ports and some other junk on there that they put on there. That doesn't matter. But what I enjoyed about this video is Doug, they got the board in. Well, instantly Doug has problems with it, and so, and I'm not basking in Doug's pain, but I just like the way Doug is the cheeriest guy I've ever seen, who semi-buries somebody, and I will say he put this board over strong, despite the finding several problems with it, including and I mean they were real difficult things to find, like he found a little area where there was a trace lift, that he found a little ball of solder between two real fine leads on a chip. These are things that when I used to be in post solder, used to drive me nuts when I worked for IBM, because you have to go in there with a microscope and a pin checker, and you're just running through this. And the boards we worked on were nothing like this. Like this would be a disaster. So Doug had to go through all this stuff, and ultimately he found out that the chips that he sent over with this board weren't the ones that were put in it. So who knows what happened to his chips? These are other chips. And because he knows for certain, for example, that his board worked, and it had an MMU in it, and the MMU in this board will not work. And he
sent a working 3000 board to Edu.
No, Edu's not involved in this. This is a whole other guy.
Oh, okay.
So, this is not Edu.
Okay.
So anyway, this is quite an adventure, and I love a good adventure video from Doug where he gets in here and tries to troubleshoot this stuff, and ultimately Doug ends up settling for this board despite its flaws. I mean, he says, "Listen, this doesn't work, and I can't get it to work, and as far as I know, it'll never work." He's like, "But I'm still cool with it." So he puts a sunny picture on it, but I really enjoyed it. Doug has got a great delivery. It's a half hour of geeky adventures in tech. So if you're into that sort of thing, I would check this out. It's good stuff, Boat.
All right, Aaron. Next, it's time for some gaming news. There is a new Amiga build of the dungeon crawler Amber Moon. I guess this is really more of a role-playing / dungeon crawler, because there are above-ground sections as well. Yeah. People love this game.
Yeah,
Aaron.
I've always heard. I don't remember us ever covering this. Have we ever covered this?
We have not yet covered Amber Moon. I wouldn't be surprised though if it was on the radar at some point in the future, because this was one of the big newish releases. This particular fix adds an English hard drive install version, so you can get that. It's fixed a lot of bugs, spawning bugs and things like that. So if you have Amber Moon, you need to update your version, I think, is what this comes down to.
Look at all these fixes, Boat. There's like a million of them. Do you see this list here?
Yeah. And I believe that this is a I believe that this is a free game. It looks like everything is based from GitHub. So perhaps you can just download this. You can download the newest version and get right away and get to dungeon crawling, man.
Yeah, it's up here. It's up full Amiga version, good to go.
Yeah.
I know this game does have a quite a rep, Boat, and I've had less than a cup of coffee with it back in the day. But it's it's popular, so I'm glad to see someone working on it, and I'm sure these fixes, given the long laundry list of stuff here, I'm sure these helped immensely.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, let's move on to the big news of the week. That's right, we are less than 1 week away. That is not true. We are just slightly more than 1 week away from the next installment of the International Computer Club.
Yeah, we wanted to pitch this at the top of the news because we always end up forgetting. Saturday, the September 18th, it'll all go down, Boat. September 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA time. We will have an International Computer Club starring a cast of thousands. We've gotten together. I think this is is this the fourth one, Boat, we've done?
I believe that this is volume 4.
We're going to try something a little bit different this time out, and we're going to actually host this thing on Discord instead of using Zoom. So if you haven't, if you've been sort of shied off in the past because you didn't want to fool around with Zoom, installing Zoom or whatever, or you're not using a computer that has Zoom, and you've got Discord, all you got to do is just literally click on the room and you'll be in. Everyone's welcome. Pop right in. Even if you don't have anything to present, you can just kind of hang out and in the room with us. That's totally fine. It'll also be broadcast on Twitch, as it always is. We've got about 4 presenters lined up so far. I'm hoping anyone listening, we've got room for several more presenters here. So if you've got a project you're working on, even if it's not completed or it's something you're thinking about, if you've got a device in your possession you want to show off, no matter what it is, if it's a console, if it's a classic computer, if you've got a book, a set of books you want to talk about, or a particular book, or a book review, or magazine review, if you've got something to pitch.
Even if you just had some recent acquisitions, to copy the Coco Talk verbiage, you can talk about what stuff you've bought lately. We had Graham talking about his GameCube collection. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah,
we're really open to almost any retro topic you can imagine. We just want to give people a chance to show off what they've got or talk about what they're into.
Yeah. This is literally just to replace. We can never replace your local users group, but we can simulate it to a certain degree, and that's what this is. And again, if you're a vendor, we've had Frank come in the past, and you want to show off some of your wares or whatever, that's also welcome. Which that happens all the time at computer clubs. So everyone's welcome. Again, this will be Saturday, September 18th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I asked that if you're going to be involved, I'd love it if you could show up about 5:30 so we can make sure everyone understands how it's going to work.
Go ahead. If you would like to sign up, all you need to do is head on over to the International Computer Club channel on the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord. There's a link there to a Google Sheet. Just put your name in, put your topic in, and boom, you're in. Yeah, that's it.
That's all there is to it. Should be a good time, Boat. I am looking forward to it, my friend.
Now, Aaron, before we wrap up the news, it's time to talk about what's new this week from our buddy Frank over at RetroRewind.ca. Aaron, Retro Rewind has been sponsoring our show for many, many months now. And his site, his shop, Retro Rewind, just keeps getting better and better. Everything you can possibly want for your Commodore computer, whether you have a C64, C128, C16, or any of the Amigas, you can find it here on his site. And let me tell you something, Aaron, the prices on this stuff, I almost laughed Frank out of the room when I saw this site for the first time, because I said, don't you know what everybody else is charging for this stuff, man? You're giving this stuff away. But he loves to do it. He loves to give back to the community and actually sell products for the Amiga that will cause you not to have to mortgage your home.
Correct. Not just the Amiga, but also the C64 and the C128, the CD32. Frank also has a recapping service. He also sells you caps if you want to do it yourself. He's got a wide variety of testing equipment, including some stuff he sent me down, some port testers, Boat, and some diagnostic ROMs. So he's got those available. pretty much he's got you covered for any of your testing or upgrade needs. Check him out, RetroRewind.ca, Boot.
Awesome. And don't forget, folks, if you do place an order with Retro Rewind, use the promo code Amigos10 at checkout. Save yourself 10%. Boom. Easy.
That's free money, Boot. That's
Free
money, man.
Aaron, are you ready to enter through the hallowed halls of Fun School?
Wow. Well, no, but let's go there anyway, Boat. It's time to go to school. It's Fun School, allegedly. We'll be the judges of that. So this week, Boat, is eduCANEment week.
Yes.
And I can't think of a better title for a game like Fun School. Now, we looked at, I was going to ask you, Bo, because I sort of just did what you did. You looked at Fun School 4 for kids 7 to 11 years old.
Correct.
That was what we looked at this week. Was that just an arbitrary choice, Bo?
This was specifically noted by Amigos Game Selection Committee Chair Pixels at Dawn. He says that that Fun School, Brutal Barracuda, who suggested this, wants the Fun School 7 through 11 specifically.
Very good. Very good. I'm sure that's the one Brutal grew up with, Bo.
Right.
Isn't that cute? So we looked at Fun School 4 for 7 to 11-year-olds. This came out in 91. You know, it's funny. Everywhere we went, this was listed as having 2 discs. I'm going to go and I'll look to see if these are sold as like a package with the younger ones. And as far as I could tell, they weren't. They were just sold individually. So, but this has 1 disc. So if you're looking for 2 in this particular case, you're not going to find it. You're just going to find 1. This was published by Europress Software, Boat. They were responsible for... Well, I looked over what they were responsible for, and I'd say Fun School is probably the top of the bunch. And they did such awesome games as Dojo Dan, which is a disaster. Charlie Chimp. Here's my personal favorite, Boat. Unsensible Soccer. We got the
oh man,
I'm not lying. And ADI Junior, some other learning titles. Not as many as you might think. The one thing I wanted to talk about Europress Software before, because we hadn't really came across them, Boat, all that much back in the day. These guys were a UK bunch. According to what I found, their address was the Thomas House, Hampshire International Business Park in Basingstoke, Hampshire, the UK. Does that any of that mean anything to you?
Yes, the old BSH, man.
What's really? Or are you just making that up?
It's like the ATL.
Oh, I see. So Europress is not just a software company. I guess you probably knew that. It was formed in 1965.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
that's almost Benetton old.
They did a lot of stuff, right? At one point, they had, according to their little write up here, they were making annual turnover of 15 million pounds and employing over 250 people.
Not bad.
Get this, Bo. This will blow your mind. This has an American twist to it. Of course, Europress got into software, but they had their hands in a lot of pies, you know. By 1990, Europress had become the 5th biggest software house in the UK. And in 99, it was taken over by American company Hasbro.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
So they were big enough to be acquired by the big dog.
Yeah. But eventually it was sold back to its original owners in 2001. Okay. So I don't know what happened
that happens sometimes.
And then to put a fork in it, on the 1st of July 2002, Europress was acquired by Koch Media. And apparently at the time of the writing of this, they were still around. So who knows for sure. But yeah, pretty wacky. But yeah, that's Europress software was just one little branch of their overarching awesomeness boat from back in the day. So getting back to the game, this is an ECS OCS. This thing is absolutely made for the UK. There's no doubt about that. So I doubt this ever got over here, Boat, because if you were a kid and you got some of these questions, you just be shaking your head wondering what the heck's going on. We'll talk about that later. This got ported to about 1 million things. I was surprised by that too. You had the Amstrad, the Atari ST, which was the original version of this. This actually came over to the Amiga from the Atari, from what I found. The C64, the ZX Spectrum. Also, I read somewhere that it had the DOS port, which I've also read that conflictingly that this had a port to the Electron, but I couldn't find one. So that could have been, it could be like the disc thing. Someone just wrote something down.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. But what is this? This is an educational title for your 7 to 11-year-old. And I will say the subject matter of this is unusual. I mean, it's an odd grouping, I think. Of course.
Well, I'll tell you why software like this exists.
Okay.
As an educator, as a professional educator.
Oh yeah.
There are curriculum guidelines that have to be met for certain age ranges. No matter what country you teach in, the people at the federal level or the state level get together and they say, by the time that you're this old, you need to know this, this, and this. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what the good educainment people do is they say, okay, how can we maximize our profit? Well, we can sell to schools if we match up our product with their curriculum standards. And so these games seem like sort of a hodgepodge of knowledge.
Yeah.
But these are the things that that they determined were the most important things to teach, where that when they sent their salespeople out to schools, they were like, listen, we can match you up with this, this, and this, which is different than your other games, which don't cover any of this stuff. So that's what I think went on here.
It's like the inside scoop. The teaching degree finally paid off, Boat, with
Finally.
your insider knowledge. Before we get too deep into fun school for 7 to 11s, every one of these fun schools, well, after like the first one, would have basically 3 different sets, okay? There's the under 5 version of Fun School 4. All these include mini games, Bo, by the way.
It's Fun School.
The under 5 version had Addition, Teddy Paint, Fun Train. We'd like that one.
Yeah.
Teddy's House, Teddy's Karaoke, and Teddy's Books. So it was sort of teddy bear based. The age 5 to 7, it had library, basketball,
Boy, library,
shopkeeper, log cabin, opposites, and typing. And you can see how some of this, you can make out something. And of course, this one, we'll get into what it had. Believe it or not, Bo, and I don't know if you read this, but this had a backstory. Did you know the backstory of this game?
No, I did not know the backstory.
There are 6 games and activities that allow the child, that's you, Bo, to help Sammy the spy, that's Agent Q, find and retrieve the stolen riches of King Ram by completing the 6 missions with varying skill levels. And then what you've got to do, you'll notice did you complete any of the missions in this?
I don't believe I completed any of them fully.
I did.
Okay.
I completed
I didn't realize it was possible. If I
did,
if I knew that, I probably would have tried harder.
I'm not going to lie to you. I can only complete one of these. Well, and I'll explain why. It's not because I'm dumb. It's not totally. Oh, hype train. Thank you. But when you complete a mission, it gives you an overarching clue to solve the mystery.
Okay.
All right. Now, I did not solve the mystery, but I did get one of the clues. So, but before we go into the individual games here, it's just sort of like we do Winter Olympics or something. What did you think of this game when it came up, and what do you think of the whole concept of a game like this?
Well, I enjoy collections of mini games. You might say it's my favorite genre of game. Anything from the games, winter games, summer games, California games, all the way up through games like Rhythm Heaven or WarioWare.
Yeah.
Anything that has a bunch of little bite-sized fun activities, I'm on board with. So I love the concept for this game.
Yeah. When it comes up, you are greeted with a jaunty little tune, Boat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a guy walking across the screen with a flashlight, like a detective.
Right.
It's really nice. Now, I like the opening tune. I like the screen layout. But here's what I didn't like. How long did it take you to figure out how to move to the next game?
Yeah. Well, I feel like what they did was they tried to standardize the controls across all computer platforms as much as they could.
Yeah.
And they decided to make space the key to move between the games. That makes no sense to us now, but I haven't played enough educainment titles on these older systems. Maybe that was sort of the standard. I don't know.
This put the pain in educainment. Because I sat there forever trying to move to the next game. You start off with 6 squares, and you with a cursor you move around to pick which of the events you want to do. The thing is, the arrow keys do nothing. Nothing does anything except for 2 keys: the enter key and the space bar. The space bar switches between the different events, and the enter key selects them. It took me forever. I was switching joysticks. I was changing computers.
Now, I will
was trying
say,
to find different discs.
I will say I did cheat a little bit. Pixels at Dawn sent me a full scan of the manual.
Oh!
So, yeah, sorry, you lost out.
Well, I figured it out eventually because I'm smarter than an 11-year-old, Boat. Thank you very much. So, let's talk about these events, Boat, and we'll just go, I guess we'll just go into the order they're presented, okay?
Okay.
So the first event you're going to find is a game called Proportions, Boat.
Yes.
Tell the people about Proportions.
You have a grid of 20 objects, and what you have to do is you get a clue. It's sort of, if you could think about Guess Who. That's what I thought of. The classic board game
The
Guess
Awesome
Who.
Band?
Not the Awesome Band, although they are awesome. You have a bunch of different pictures that are related by theme. For example, you might see laboratory equipment, and then you might get a question like, how many burners are there in this? And so you have to do some mental math or get a calculator and determine what percentage of burners there are, or blue pencils. Sometimes you see a bunch of secret agents in trench coats, and they'll say, how many agents are there that have a blue mustache? And you can do this. The levels progress through percent. You've got decimals, you've got fractions, and you've got the clue. Actually, I don't really know what clue is, but the other ones I understand. And I found myself, especially when it came to the fractions, to be especially poor at this sort of activity.
I busted through this one because listen, you may not know this, Boat. Not only do I have a brown belt in Costa Toomey Con, Southern West Virginia Karate, I'm also a 2-time middle school math field day champion.
Are you really?
You got that right, brother.
I had no idea. That's
Listen,
great.
I got brains coming out my hiney. You know what I mean? And
wow,
so,
they wouldn't even let me in the door in math field day.
Well, I could tell that. That's all right. But so when it came to going through these ratios here, these proportions, I aced this sucker, and this is the one that I actually took to the house.
Yeah.
At this one. Now it starts off fairly simple with just a smaller grid, and then it works its way up to where the grid gets bigger. And you can see here, if you're watching, you get up to 30 or more. And all you've got to do, it's multiple choice. And once you get past the first section, you actually get a little cut scene where your guy goes to his computer to type some stuff out, like you're cracking the case. That's the gimmick that they're doing. So you do this, and after every round, you see that little thing. Then it shows you a scene with your agent under a lamp, and he holds his coat out to tell you what level he's on. Pretty simple stuff. But it's not bad. I mean,
it does a good job of breaking up the action, and those little animations. You know, when you were a kid and you were playing a game on a computer, you lived for those little things. You thought they were great. Yeah,
and that's the one I beat, and it gave you the little clue. So the next bit here is Spy Quiz. Now, Spy Quiz I found infuriating. It's not because it was bad, but because it was very, very UK centric, Boat, including asking stuff like, what's the primary river of this town, or asking about words that I'd never heard. So I would get up in this part of the game, your car pulls up and you're grapple hooking like Batman style, going up the rope, and you have to answer questions, and the more questions you answer, the higher you get on the rope until you get to the top of the ledge, get the information, and then you get out. If you miss a question,
now the thing that's infuriating about this game is you can get almost all the way up the rope. It only takes one. Takes one miss. The flower pot gets dropped on your head. You go all the way back down to the beginning.
Correct. And so what would inevitably happen to me, I mean, I got past, 3 or 4 levels of this, but what would inevitably happen I would get a question that would be very non-American. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm Commander UK, but I've got more than a passing knowledge of what's going on. But I mean, if you ask me, what river comes out of somewhere. I had no idea. And
Geography, not your. Yeah.
Dude, do you know what's the major river that comes out of Denver? We're in America. Right. Do you know that? I don't know.
No.
I mean, it's a big country.
Probably Colorado River.
Plus, you don't know what's more important in other countries, and I don't know. And so I would inevitably fall down, and I got frustrated and quit. But this is it's colorful. Mm-hmm. It looks nice. The animation's nice. I like this event. I like, and there were a pretty decent amount of trivia questions too. I thought they did a pretty good job on this one. It's an interesting thing to be put in here, like a trivia contest. I thought it was kind of neat.
I thought this was one of my favorite events. Even though I didn't know all of the questions, it was still fun. I like the idea of you scaling the wall, and when you drive away, it's satisfying. I like the combination of trivia and spelling.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that so much. I mean, I did okay at those, but they're very tricky, aren't they?
Yeah, they're tricky. And so I thought, now, here's what I think, Aaron. I think that if they put this sort of a group of questions in front of your average 7 to 11-year-old American student, I don't think they do so hot. I think these questions, it seemed to me to be more on the middle school level than the elementary school level.
Listen, these were difficult questions, some of them. Mm-hmm. And even the spelling ones were no easy feat. A lot of these were, again, it's hard to say unless these were completely Americanized, with their American equivalent. Maybe a kid would do better. But as an adult, I found this, I'm not going to say challenging, but I would do fine and then hit one that I didn't know, and I'd be like, oh, man.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying on that one. But it's a good looking, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that event at all. Now the next one, Boat, I will say I thought this one was pretty simple here. I think the next one we're going to do is exchange rates. So this I never thought about this, but this is probably pretty important to have knowledge of this. And this is just monetary exchange rates. They list 5 countries at the top here, Boat, including the UK being the base currency, and then it's got what do we got here? The Germany's Deutschmark, the franc from France, the lira is there, and what is the?
That's probably the Spanish peso.
Is that what? No, it's not the peso, because they mentioned what it is, but it's another currency. Boy,
yeah. Done. Now, Aaron, here's a question for you: how many of these currencies currently exist?
Well, I mean, I think they all exist, but I don't think they're all actively being. I mean, mostly now it's euro, except for the pound is back, I assume.
None of these currencies exist anymore except for the pound.
It's still handy knowledge, because despite the fact that, and you were right, by the way, thank you, Frodo, it was the peseta from Spain, so it wasn't the peso, but still close enough. This is still pretty handy, because although they trick you by putting a calculator on the screen. At first, I thought I could use that to figure this stuff out, but no, you have to do it in your head. But what you do is they ask you questions about the exchange rate, and as you answer the questions, you'll get parts of your spy suit. You literally start this scene in your underpants, and then you start slowly putting your spy suit together, and after that, you end up buying some other stuff. And there's even a part of this where they ask you, if you go far enough in, they'll have products on the table, and they'll ask you which of these is the most expensive or the least expensive. Which of these is second most expensive. And that gets pretty heady right there, doesn't it?
Right. This is a great example of how to do a difficulty curve right, because when you lead off in this, all you're doing is multiplying. You're multiplying the number that he asks you by the number of the currency. But like you said, it gets harder and harder. I thought this was probably my favorite event, just because I enjoyed watching my little spy get dressed. I enjoyed all your little guy here.
That's what did it for you, huh?
Hey, listen, man, whatever works.
Hey, now listen, if it was backwards, I'd be in.
And your customs officer, he's got the look of every customs officer you've ever seen in your life. Just disinterested.
Yeah, I will say, I thought this was a pretty easy one. But I will say it gets a little more complicated when you get into the later rounds. But it is neat. And it sort of harkens back to a different time, I guess. But I think it's cool. It's handy for a kid to have that sort of knowledge. I mean, I can see where it'd be important. So I like this event. I like the idea of getting the stuff up from the guy like you're buying this stuff. I will say it's funny because amongst the things you're getting are like guns, knives. So
Listen, you're a
I,
super spy.
I,
It's part and
again,
parcel. If you
yeah,
don't have one of those when you board the plane, the customs officer gives you one.
is that how it works? Is it?
Yeah.
So that was a pretty good one. The next one we're going to talk about, Boat, is Timetable. Now, Timetable, I would say, is far and away would you say this is the easiest event that's an actual proper event?
Yes, it was the easiest for me.
Is your guy's in an airport, he's looking up at the departure sign, and all the departures are listed, and then they'll ask a question like, what time's the flight leave for Paris? And you look at what time it says, like 4:15 p.m., and then there's a big checklist. You just go down to the one that's the right one, you hit the button, and then that you get the answer right. And when
This
you get
was
enough
one
of
that
these, go ahead.
I couldn't figure out. Were you able to find a different level where you had a different task? Because it seemed like for me, you just kept doing the same thing over and over again.
And it never got any harder to me either.
Right.
I will say the highlight of this is when you finish the level, your guy does the crazy 2 suitcase shuffle. And then you see him out on the tarmac getting the airplane, and then the airplane flies off with the classic Atari engine noise.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? It sounds just like the
it.
old like Star Raiders or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't spend any money on the sound effects, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's a little sign that says "Fly Frog Air."
Mm-hmm.
And a couple.
There's lots of little fun touches in this, you know.
But I didn't see this change at all. You get 4 correct answers, and every time you get an answer, a light comes on, and then once you get them all, you keep on trucking. Not hard at all. If it gets harder, I don't know how you'd make this any harder.
The only thing you could do
is to be easy.
Well, you could make this harder. You could say the local time is 10:15 a.m. If you're currently in England, if you were in Paris, what time would the flight to Lisbon be? So you'd have to do an additional calculation.
Oh, God.
So there would be ways to make this harder, but
of course that wouldn't be realistic. I mean,
no, because you'd only be flying out of the airport where it was the local time.
I want to go in the airport where they show you a different local time just to screw with you. We're testing you
just for fun. Just for fun.
So there's that one. Now this next one is what I would call, I don't know, abstract boat, which is saying, and it is the travels thing. Now, what did you think of this one, Boat? I don't know if we've got video. There it is. This
one's odd.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a 3-level excursion. Okay. The first level of this is not a game. The first level of this is you fly around in a plane, and as you pass over areas, it will show up in the bottom of the screen where you are. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's like a tutorial of how to fly a plane.
If you've ever seen like Indiana Jones, when the parts of the show where he's flying around, and they just show a map and just show a little line where he's going, that's what this map looks like, with a little cut scene thrown in.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, down on the bottom, there's a little cutscene, which is cute. It's nice. And then in the second level, that's where the game really begins. You are piloting a boat, and you have to sail the 7 seas to find to find, all the different oceans and seas and things like that. This is a little bit tricky. I found it very difficult to control this boat with any degree of accuracy. And I got stuck up there in the Mediterranean Sea up by Italy and all those straits and things. And I had a devil of a time trying to get out of there.
Well, part of it, you have to figure out where you're going, which is no easy task. It is wacky. And the boat, no boat should control like that, by the way.
No.
The boat, it has no brakes. It's like playing Snafu.
You sail until you hit land and you collide with it.
That's right. But I will say, this event wasn't my favorite, but there is something kind of interesting I read about this. So this game is listed as being coded in Amos. Okay, we've heard that.
Well, we're not done talking about. Are we going to talk about the third level?
This is relevant to this level.
Okay.
So this game was known to be coded in Amos. Well, I was looking over the Lemon reviews, and one of the people that reviewed a game in here mentioned that he actually wrote he did a couple levels for this, including this one, and also Timetable, and they were written in assembly. So there were a couple of events in this that were not written in Amos. and this is one. He also mentioned that he did a couple of the ports too. I did a little more searching, and sure enough, there are a few places that list a combination of the two languages, or the two programming languages. So that's kind of neat to know. It is, by the way, another pretty quality game for most of it being in Amos. I was pretty impressed by that. Now, how did you fare at this particular event aside from getting your boat stuck?
It wasn't too bad. I'm pretty good at world geography. I'm less good at local geography, I think.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. So the last event, Boat, this is a weird one here, I thought. I mean, an odd inclusion. This one's called Desert Dates. All right, Desert Dates. The flavor text on this one, Sammy and his boss have found various pyramids containing gems and secret parchments hidden behind various blocks with a date written on them. The computer will ask a question, and the child must select the correct block to smash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're doing here. You're getting asked questions. And some of these questions, well, a lot of these questions weren't easy, Boat. I didn't think. What did you think?
Well, what they try to do, if you read the curriculum guide to this book, which I did,
such a teacher.
They say that, individual dates are too hard for kids to remember, which I agree with, and they're mostly unimportant.
And
you don't need to know the exact date of things in the past. I like the idea of making it a century. Yeah. And I like the idea of making it not the hard to understand 12th, 13th century where you got to add 100 years. I like the idea of what they did here. So now, but I was just like you. This is very European centric, and of course the United States history doesn't go back this far, so we have no choice but to go into Europe. But yeah, there were a lot of things in this. I actually thought that this was harder than the trivia event.
Yes, I agree with that. That much said, it's colorful again. The animation's cute. I think it was neat. I think if you're a kid that's actually in the midst of studying this sort of stuff, that this would be fun, but you would gain some knowledge. I agree with what you said about picking the century. First of all, they were dead on. No one can remember these exact dates. I mean, unless you're a historian or just have a really good memory. But you can sort of guess, come close,
Right.
But I like this. I like this was a cute little event. And
now I did have technical problems with this particular game.
Yes.
Once I finished the level, the game hard locked on me.
Yep.
And I had to quit out.
It's funny because I had this lock up on me as it started. That's interesting. So we both had trouble with that level. That's odd.
Yeah. There's also an issue with I believe it's the timetables game. Whenever you quit out of that, it doesn't just quit you out of that event. It quits you back to Workbench. Yeah. And so
that I didn't have happen.
And in Pix, when he sent me the manual, actually, I guess he sent this to both of us. He says that it says in the manual, it says if you can't quit to the menu on your basic Amiga, it's because the game is so awesome and it has so much content. So that's why it boots you back out to Workbench.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. So there are your events. Now, before we close the door on this, I want to talk about the series, because I think this is relevant. Okay.
Sure.
So, I looked on Wiki here to see how popular it was, because I'd never heard of the Fun School series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing you had. You seemed
excited. No,
I'd
never heard of it. I just read a lot about it this week.
I see. Okay, so the games before '89, there was not much of an education market. So they were saying that when this came out for these various computers, it was basically running by itself more or less for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a huge market for it, so it did real well. The game sold 60,000 copies by February. This is Fun School 2, and at that point they decided to make a German version. And by April for Fun School 2, they'd sold 100,000 copies. All right, so then they started adding these things together. So you've got by 1990, which was August of 90, and keep it in mind, this came out in 91, so this is still predating what we're looking at. This series had already sold 100,000 units. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then by the end of that year, they'd sold 150,000 units. By the time they got to Fun School 3, they'd sold 250,000 copies. Right?
I guarantee you there are more copies sold of Fun School than many, many, many popular Amiga games, and I'll tell you why. Schools are going to buy software.
Yeah.
They're not going to pirate it. You know, they've got budget for this stuff.
It's a good angle, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Fun School 3 sold great. And by the time Fun School 4, which is what we looked at, came around, Europress had already sold 300,000 of its Fun School products. And after this release, they sold another 100,000. All right. So by 92, they'd sold 500,000. By 93, they'd sold 650,000. After it was all said and done, when they released Fun School 6, they'd sold 1.5 million copies of the Fun School series. And when they released Fun School 7 finally, they had sold over 2 million copies of these Fun School games. So, yeah, they were going to the money bank with these games. And if you think about it, we're talking about Europress software. You saw the titles I read off. They weren't selling 2 million copies of Dojo Dan, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Unlikely.
Now, Bo, you had a look at this on one of its ports. Can you fill us in a little?
Yeah, so I remember, I think Pix was actually the guy that said that he had this on the Spectrum, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. So I fired up the old Mister, and we got some Fun School going. Actually, that's a lie. I think I fired it up on the old emulator because it was a disc game, Aaron. This is one of the few Spectrum disc games that I have played. It was actually 2 discs on 2 big discs. I've got to say, the Spectrum version does not disappoint.
Yeah, it looks good,
all of the elements are there. I think that's the interstitial animations, I believe, are not there, but the actual, in-game stuff is still there. I was very impressed. Of course, I mean, it's not doing a ton, but the graphical fidelity, which is the most important part of the game, is still big, beautiful, colorful, big sprites. I was a fan of this.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it looks like all the elements are there too. They've even captured the
the customs officer,
customs man, in all of his glory. So the graphics look like I wouldn't what they weren't ported, but they were lovingly and painstakingly redone on the Specky.
Yes.
So that looks like a pretty good port if you're into that sort of thing. I looked this up to see. I was interested to see how this would do from the perspective of how it had been rated at the time. The people at Lemon give it a 7.4, Bo.
That's low.
Well,
from the Lemon crowd.
That's not. I mean, you got to.
There's tons of games we've played that have been hot garbage that they've rated higher than 7.4.
So you're holding the candle for Fun School 4. CU Amiga was the only mainstream outfit I could see that actually did a review of this. They gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The Spectrum version actually had a couple reviews. Crash gave it an 85, Sinclair user gave it an 83, and your Sinclair gave it an 84. So somewhere in the same ballpark. The Amiga one apparently was more well received, at least by the one magazine. I also eBayed this thing, Boat. You can get this thing, believe it or not, in the USA. I was surprised to see that. Yeah, and I'm wondering, I wonder if there was a region-corrected version of this, a regional version. It'd almost be worth buying just to see, but you probably,
absolutely.
Not. Anyway, you get it for $15, Boat. It's out of California, IA. And if you want this in the UK, you can get this thing all day long for under $6. Do we have any Discord action on this, Boat?
We did. We lead off with Pajako 6502. He says, a fun educational title for kids and grown-ups too, with a good variety of games. Graphics and audio are good and wouldn't be out of place in modern educational devices. Some of the quiz questions seemed hard for children, but as you aren't punished too badly for wrong answers, it's not a showstopper. Hilariously, one round saw the main British character robbing the pyramids. Now, that is real history, folks.
I never thought of that.
For an educational kids title on a 16-bit machine, this is really not bad at all. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Pixels at Dawn writes, the clue is in the name. This is a bunch of fun for an educational title with solid sound and graphics, although the mini-games could do with some background music themselves. It's also pretty challenging at times, even for us older types. And he says, I was never good at fractions. I particularly liked the strong theming around spies for this one, and knowing a bit about the national curriculum in the UK, it seems to fit pretty well to the later key stages. And it's nice to see an educational game that isn't just learn to count and what letter does this word start with. Very inventive and fun, although a little repetitive if you stick with one minigame for too long. 8 out of 10.
Very good. We both like this one, Boat.
Yeah, this is a winner for me. Educainment.
Have we had a bad educational title yet?
I don't think so. I mean, all the games we've played, I've been shocked to have fun with.
It is
So it's
very
been good.
every year, every time it comes up, I dread it, but by the time it's over, I'll always enjoy it, Bo. It's a very strange thing.
What do you say we head on over to our YouTube channel, Aaron, see what's going on there?
Yes, sir. Good idea, Bo. So we had an interesting week this week. I mean, what can I say? I guess we'll get to it. Let's talk about ARG Presents.
Oh, yeah.
And the Brent, the ever popular The Brent. This week, boy, this was a weird one. We looked at the Benetton lines of home Pong machines, Bo. Now, this is a UK outfit. Have you heard of these guys at all before this?
I had never heard of Benetton before.
They've released a core for the Mister, and so this spurred a suggestion to do it, and it was fun. I got a lot of help from my friends, that's for sure, because it was not the easiest thing to find video footage of or even information on, but once I got into it, it was kind of neat. We had a lot of fun looking into this thing, playing the games. The Mr. Core supports the Benetton 4. It's called the Benetton TV Master MK4, but there were a ton of these things, a country ton. We go over all of them, Bo, that are based around the 8500 chip. We looked at every single
It's amazing. You said that the Mark 10, they went all the way to 10, right?
Well, there's actually more than that. Believe it or not, they also released a cartridge-based machine, which we didn't look at. So maybe
maybe in a future episode that can be on there.
We had a lot of fun, but we actually left some food on the table for this one. So this week, if you enjoyed the Benetton show, there'll be a little addendum at the beginning of this week's show, because we're going to get a couple extra goodies that came to light after we did the video. But we had a lot of fun on this one, Bo, and the Brett was particularly keen on this one. He really enjoyed
this episode tremendously.
Oh, very good, very good. So, I'll occasionally stream a little something on Friday nights, Bo.
Every once in a while.
Last week, a couple weeks ago, I really enjoyed playing what I call the Amiga Legacy on the PlayStation. We played a lot of Amiga games that ended up having ports to the PlayStation or sequels. And I thought, heck, let's just play some PlayStation games. And that's what we did. We just had, I just had people suggest some different games, Boat, including air hockey. There's a couple games on here that were right up your alley because they were mini game based.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were fun too. This is one right here. I can't remember it's called Baku or something like that. I don't know.
Sounds like it was Japanese wackiness. That sounds right up my alley.
We played some awesome shooters.
We played
a little bit of that.
Was that One Must Fall? Did that get a PlayStation release?
No, that was not. What? What are you looking at? No, that was a shooter. We played a little Parappa the Rappa. We tried that. We tried a little bit of everything. So if you're into just seeing some crazy, that's Strider. We had a lot of fun. If you're into the PlayStation, you can check it out. It was a good time. And of course, these guys picked good games too. Well, we might as well talk about it, Boat. Last week, me and Boat had a 5-minute conversation on the release of the new ABBA. The new ABBA album, the upcoming album, and the virtual tour from ABBA. And I sent it over to Boat. I clipped it out. I thought it was amusing. And I said, hey, you should put this up. And Boat, of course, got himself an inflammatory thumbnail and put it up. And then the ABBA fans are cut out of the woodwork to bury us, despite the fact that I spent the whole video putting over one of my all-time favorite bands, ABBA.
I've never been called so many horrible, demeaning names by so many fans of a band that is apparently the sweetness and light of the universe.
Well, they are.
So maybe the fans should take a cue from the band.
I learned something from this video that I guess I sort of knew, is that people will come to badmouth you without actually watching 1 minute of the video.
That's right.
1 minute of the 5-minute video.
It's the YouTube way.
Because the whole time, if you watch this, all I do is put over ABBA and badmouth Boat for badmouthing ABBA the few times he does. But no, we still got reviled. So if you want to hear me talk about ABBA and then have Boat, even Boat wasn't cruel to him.
No.
But the thumbnail was brutal. So we took a bath on this. But hey, I will say, thanks to this video, we had one of our all-time most viewed days. So go figure. Who'd have thunk it, Boat? Yeah, we're known for talking about ABBA. Boat, if you're interested in watching a couple playthroughs Boat did of today's game, he did a playthrough on both the Amiga and the Spectrum. So if you sort of sit down and watch someone play Fun School 4, the 7 to 11 version, then you can check those videos out. Look who's back, Boat. Guess who's back in circulation? It's our good buddy Jack Flack. Now, this time around, it was some C64 action with one of his patented wacky discs. He also, here's my favorite part, Boat. He had his own BBS back in the day that he never actually put online. And so he actually logs onto it. In fact, he logged on as me, which is great. And then he actually took everyone on a tour of his BBS.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to have to watch this later. That sounds great.
It's the nerdiest, geekiest, like 12-year-old mentality hacker thing you ever saw. I love it. My favorite question, are you a member of the CIA, the FBI, Homeland Security? This big, long diatribe. I always wondered how that's going to catch anybody.
Listen, it's the law. If you're a cop, you've got to say you're a cop.
Who said that's the law? Have you ever heard that? That can't be true.
It's not. People say that all the time, though. They're just like, just ask them if they were a cop. It's the law. They've got to say that. If that was the case, anyway.
I enjoyed this. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed watching this BBS. Just if you read the stuff that Flack wrote on here, it is a grand lunacy of a young kid. You talk about a time capsule of what you were thinking back when you were 12 or so. This is it right
I
here.
wish I had something like this so I could remind myself of how big a loser
great.
I was.
I mean, it was great. And then, of course, he also plays a couple demos. He gets some C64 game action, including my old favorite Samuel Lightfoot is involved in there. So check this out. This is Sprite Castle Plays C64 Games. Our good buddy Rob Flack O'Hara. I'd say it's a must-watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of a must-watch, every week, he's the King Dong of streaming, Boat. And it's our good buddy, Frodo NL. Frodo goes back to 1984 to look at the C16.
Interesting.
Me and the Brent did a show with the C16 where we played a couple of, I think we did Jack Attack was one of the games we did, which is, and I can't recall the other one we did, but it was a well-received show.
I remember Jack Attack, yeah.
And so the C16 has its fans. And, of course, one of them just sits right there before you. It's Frodo, and he goes through and just plays some of these games. Frodo has been a streaming machine, Boat, and I believe a week from Saturday he's got a big stream coming up. Do you remember the dates on that stuff?
Yeah. So Frodo is actually no, I don't. It's Frodo is streaming on the 19th. I remember it's the 19th. I forgot that when I closed my Twitch channel. Frodo's in the chat right now. Frodo, you just put that right back up there, and I will plug the heck out of this thing, man.
Frodo is doing a 12-hour stream, ladies and gentlemen.
September 18th.
Yes.
September 18th.
Same day. I think it's actually going on at the exact same time as International Computer Club, but he'll be going for 12 hours.
Wow.
So, hey, open up 2 windows, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And he is doing it to celebrate a breakthrough amount of subscribers to his channel. Frodo is there's a reason why that Frodo is so popular, because he's that good.
Yeah.
512 followers, Boat.
6 a.m. until 6 p.m.
Holy smokes! What is that in America? Oh, that is an American time, isn't it?
Who knows?
Easter. What's EDT? Easter.
That's.
We need that. We need the game. Where's the time conversion game? So anyway, check Frodo out. 6 a.m. EDT.
That's got to be European. EDT. It's got to be European time.
There you go. European time.
Daylight time.
That can't be what that means, right? Holy God.
Maybe it's Estonian time.
Oh, would you just stop? Anyway, we love Frodo. Check out his video and check out his stream. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there, Boat. Faux show. That's all we got, Boat.
All right. Well, I want to take us over to the Amiga Retro Gaming Discord server to give you guys an update on what's going on our high score competitions. Z9K9 has suggested that people play the game from the. I think this came out the very first month the Amiga was released, if I recall correctly from Anthony in the Amiga show. Could be wrong. Mind Walker. Oh, yeah. Mind Walker.
That's a must-watch episode of the Amiga show. That's a great one. I love that.
So Z9K9 has posted it doesn't look to be the easiest game to jump into, but he's posted a quick start guide where I'm gonna try and give this a shot sometime this weekend, because it looks interesting. You never know. We're probably going to end up playing this at some point in the future, so I might as well get my feet wet. But jump in, post yourself a high score on the Amigos High Score Challenge over on the Discord. Specky High Score Challenge still going strong. We got a couple more days. We're going to tape our next episode, and the new High Score Challenge will be announced then. But right now you can get in on the Rodland action. The Rodland action, Aaron. Right now we have this is one of the most well attended high score challenges we've had. 8 people have submitted high scores, and of course I am bringing up the rear with my score. But hey, I love Rodland. I gave it my best shot. If you love Rodland and you love the Spectrum, get on there, get it done.
I plan on submitting a score in the next 2 days, Boat. That's
all right.
Even
well, speaking in the next 2 days, Aaron, we have quite a Sunday coming up. If you are listening to Amigos the day that is released, that is tomorrow from our time, on Sunday, September 12th, we are going to be recording our usual monthly marathon of shows where we record our Sinclair, 1200 XL, and the Coco Show back to back to back. We'd love to have you in the chat with us, especially a very special episode of our Sinclair, because our Sinclair, our Clives Club, the game selection committee, they came to a tie for our next game. So we're actually going to be announcing our next game for the first time live on air, and we need your help, fair listener. Please join us live in the Twitch chat on twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming Sunday at 3 p.m. We are going to be taping our Sinclair, and at the end of the show, you can help us decide whether we're going to be playing a Rampage or Mikey.
Yeah, and as an added bonus on our Sinclair, we're going to talk about a game we reviewed a long time ago, Speed. We have actually gotten some feedback from the guy that wrote that.
Yeah.
So we're going to mention that, too. That'll be kind of fun to have a quick look back at that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So big weekend coming up, and we'd love for you to spend some time with us. Now, Aaron, before we close things out, of course, we can't forget about the Patreon song.
Yes, we can. We can. We can and we should.
Last week's Patreon song challenge, a real barn burner, Aaron, the return of the Amigos Patreon band, was Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, the immortal duet between George Michael and Debbie Harry. This was won by Super Tech Boy, Frodo and L,
Did they
Joe
really
Ski
do
Rock,
it? Is that?
Terry Howard, Bernard Lucas, Blip Blop, Pac Billy, Gary Heather, Andy Craig, TMX Online. Congratulations. I don't know. It might have been Elton John. They look pretty much the same on the attractiveness
Listen, don't do that to me, because what a team up that would have been. Debbie Harry and George Michael.
George Michael's about 56 years younger than Debbie Harry, so it would be like I don't know, Justin Bieber visits the Golden Girls. So Aaron, this week the Amigos Patreon Song Challenge comes to us from a newly renamed group. We've got a couple different Patreon groups, and to differentiate ourselves and also to give ourselves a little bit of local flavor, we've decided to name the Patreon bands, and this is going to be the debut performance of our new Patreon group. So if you know the answer to this Patreon Song Challenge, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com. Please do not answer in the chat if you are live in the chat. It makes it more fun for everyone if you just send me an email, and I will announce you as a winner on our next episode. Hit it.
Brace yourselves. Here it comes.
Wanderly Chesson, Mark Richardson, David Hearn, Chris Edwards, Remo K, David Teresh, Carlos Matthew Mobius, The Phantom Magnus, Faith Yates, Alistair P, Christian Russo, David C, George Rosensky, The Amiga Show, Dana Crabtree, Super Family Kings, Crazy Lumen, Winter Scar, Heavy Systems Inc., Bundy Frag, Lord Mark Byland, Olaf Popersky, Jonah A.K. Simulant, Alien Breeder, Dave Velociraptor, Calbert Boy, Lane Denson, Luke Hudson, John Cook, Bomb, The Bass, Frodo and L, Soul Incisor, Tech Mage, Jurgen, Mr. Cola, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zorglum, Collection, Simon Ledge, Captain Crispy, Kill the Bites of Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch Day, Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Bob Striminator, 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, RMC, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Eder, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoll, Barkman, Roland Burr, Andrew Munch, Joe the Zombie, Liv Kilon, Alan Kebab, Chicote, Levalor, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRoche, Creepy Dead Boy, Biggie CTC, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorkin, Mortensen, Evan Helene, Christopher Hessel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Bowles, Lauren Giroux, Graham Vipke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro Vintage, Gary Tucker, Paul Harrington, Duncan Silas, Taves from the Crab, Josh Mann, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THG, Eric Nelson, Tim Tommy Riverside, Daniel Livingston, Barracuda, Derek Bulls, Jesse Morris, Big Susan Dawn, your Bobbin. That's right. We are now known as the June Bugs. The June Bugs. So I want to thank Lobsterminator for playing the lead on that. Of course, the inimitable Graham W. Vebke, who appears courtesy of Red Symbols. And I'd like to thank myself for being awesome.
No.
So, Aaron, it's time to recognize all the fine folks that watch us live on Twitch every week and decide to throw us some cash by subscribing to our Twitch channel.
Yes, thank
you. We had a crazy hype train going. I'm not really versed in the laws of the hype train, but apparently we were complete at level 2. So we thank everybody this evening who has contributed to our hype train. I'd like to have a hype train of my very own one day. Maybe one day I will.
Train. Remember that show?
Yeah,
that
you already have a soul train.
That's
it's your
true.
house, man. Your household is one big soul train. So, Aaron, let's kick it off right now and just name them all down. Jigglebox, Macintosh Librarian, Crabs MTG, Mr. Toast 6502, OROM, Mitsuyama, Uber Scuba Diver, Zeezer Fall, John Marshall, Datadog UK, Jason Warrens, Brock 101, Wishbone, Happy Coding ZX, Memories of a Spectrum Gamer, Paul Kitching, Blue Train, Rob, Flack, O'Hara, Octams, Negsol, Tinfoil, ChronosNet, Demoscene TV, Rushi, MSX, Blow Jellyfish, Mikea 3000, Frodo NL, Luminate 08, Eeyore 4077, Twilight Zoner, Texas Foosballer, Summer Sausage, Buck Owens, Stormy 7971, Scumboy, Amy Steph, Still Adolescing, Peeplo, Beach Bum 7, Worlds of Rogue, Zadamune, Gary Hucker, Rod CL34, 48K Ram, R-Typer, Gary Heather, HSEI Ken, and Great Owl G. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to us on Twitch.
Thank you.
Now, Aaron, next week, we've got a big show. We're going to be playing a game called T-Rex Warrior or Trex Warrior. I'm not sure. I like to think about it as T-Rex Warrior.
T-Rex
I hope it's a
Warrior
game about
enticing.
Mark Boland.
That would be awesome. You get on a T-Rex and you have like a chicken fight.
I would love that.
That's not what this is, though, is it?
I don't think so.
Trex Warrior, that sounds familiar. I may have played that on stream, Boat.
Maybe so. It was nominated for voting by Amigos Game Selection Committee member and This Week in Retro producer Duncan Stiles. We thank him for nominating. Of course, we thank the Amigos Game Selection Committee for voting on these awesome games for us every week.
Yeah, because we don't know. We have no idea.
We don't know.
Nah.
We got nothing. So we thank you as always for joining us. We will see you again next week. Until then, adios.